This is Lake with Metro's Outreach Team. In this video, we are going to talk all about how to recycle correctly in our region. I recommend you have something to write with and something to write on, like a piece of paper. And the first question that I have for you is, I just want you to rate yourself. How confident are you that you know what can go in the recycling? And rate yourself from 1 to 5. A 5 is like, I'm very confident, I've read about it, I could explain it to other people, I know exactly what goes in. A 1 is like, I don't even really know where the dumpster to recycle is in my apartment building. Okay, you can be honest, you're not gonna offend me. But it turns out that recycling is a little bit more complicated than a lot of us think that it is. And when we're not doing it correctly, we're putting things in that really shouldn't go in, we end up messing up the system. So we wanna make sure we're getting it right, and that's gonna be what we'll learn today. The first thing I would like to do is to show you a video. This video is a footage from the inside of the recycling facility. So when all of that cardboard and plastic bottles and paper, aluminum cans get collected in the mixed recycling, they go to a place called a material recovery facility, or you'll hear it called a MRF in the video. And in that facility, they're gonna need to separate everything out. So the paper goes together, the aluminum goes together, the plastic goes together. And I'm wondering, how do you predict they're going to sort the materials? If you had a giant warehouse full of recycling and you couldn't go in and touch everything with your hands, how would you separate it out? Would you use robots? Would you use machines, conveyor belts, magnets? So take a look, and I'd like for you to think about that while you watch the video, because that's going to be a really good clue for what can and can't go in the recycling once we start sorting materials.
Whether it comes from your home, work, or school, your mixed recycling ends up at a material recovery facility, often called a MRF. The MRF sorts everything into separate materials and removes things that don't belong. The separated materials go on to be remade into new products. Let's take a look at 5 materials commonly received at a MRF: paper, aluminum, steel, plastic, and glass. Remember, the recycling you put out at the curb comes into the MRF all mixed together. And it must be sorted. In order to get the best results, a combination of hand sorting and machine sorting is used. In a typical MRF, the mixed recyclables are fed onto conveyor belts, where the first material separated is cardboard. Notice how the machine sends the cardboard onto another conveyor, while the other materials drop down through the screens. Workers are waiting to pick out the few non-cardboard items that accidentally make it through. After the cardboard has been removed, the paper is separated from the metal and plastic. Notice how air jets blow the paper onto the top conveyor belt, while the metal and plastic drop down to the lower conveyor belt. The paper then passes under rotating magnets, which pick out any tin cans or other steel materials that still made it through. Next, an eddy current separator uses electrically charged currents which literally eject aluminum cans from the conveyor. Now that all the recyclables have been separated, they are compacted into bales for efficient transportation to markets. Contamination is a problem for all recycling programs. This means materials that aren't recyclable or should be collected separately, like plastic bags, have been mistakenly included. If you're not sure what is recyclable in your community, check with your hauler.
Now that you've had a chance to see the recycling in action inside the MRF, my first question is, what did you think was interesting about it? Or was there an observation you could share about what you saw? One thing that I thought was interesting was just how few people there are to sort the recycling. Most of it is done with conveyor belts and machines. It's very automatic. There aren't a lot of people there to help us out if we're making a mistake. So that's why it's so important that when we're throwing something in the recycling, we're sure that it really can be recycled. Because if it's supposed to be trash or if it's dirty and contaminated, there's not going to be somebody on the other end to help us out. That's why sometimes we say, when in doubt, throw it out. It's okay to make trash sometimes. It's actually better if you're not sure. So I want to practice this with you today. Please make a list on your paper of the numbers 1 through 18. This is where you're going to write your answers down. Next, I'm going to start showing you items, and your job is going to be to pick one of the 2 that can go in the recycling. For example, if I showed you this paper cup, and I showed you this metal can here, your job would be to write down metal can. That's the one that can go in the recycling. Here's another example. If I showed you this file folder and this photo of the cute dog that I had when I was in 6th grade, you would write down file folder because that's the one that can go in the recycling. So those are your examples. Get ready with number 1. As we go, some of them, you're gonna know them right away. They'll be obvious. Others, they might take you a minute. So pause the video, think through each answer, and then write down which one you wanna pick that can go in the recycling. Are you ready to play? First up, I have a dry food box from some macaroni, and then I have a freezer food box that was held a frozen dinner. So which one of these can go in the recycling? I have just kind of a regular piece of junk mail that I received with a little cellophane window. And then I have a big bubble mailer, which is paper on the outside and has bubble wrap on the inside. Very fun to pop. I have this book of science experiments that I'm not going to read anymore. And then I have this magazine that I got in the mail. I have a paper bag that's lined with plastic on the inside that had coffee in it. And then I have just a regular paper bag that I had lunch out of. I have a little notebook. It's all paper. And then I have a paper towel. How about an empty paper towel tube or an empty, clean, dry hot drink cup? How about a cereal box or a cereal bag that came from the inside? Would you say a drink cup or a drink bottle? Cup or the bottle? All right, I have a small container, less than 6 ounces, and I have a bigger container, greater than 6 ounces. Paper food tray, milk carton, clean and dry. I have the lid to a container, and I have a container itself. Now, this is bigger than 6 ounces. This is not. And then I have a plastic shopping bag and a paper shopping bag. I've got a water bottle. And then I've got this little hinged kind of berry container or takeout container. I have this empty shampoo bottle. It's clean and rinsed out. And then I have this plastic squeeze tube from lotion. Plastic lids or metal lids. I got this greeting card. This one's just plain paper. This one's paper, but it has a bunch of sparkles on the top. I have some kitchen foil here. It's clean. And then I have this plastic package from some snacks that I ate with kind of a foil lining on the inside. And I have this plastic bottle here, and then I have the lid. I want to show you all of them together, just in case you need to check any of your answers. So here are all the items with their numbers beside them. Make sure you have an answer written down for each one. Now that you have an answer picked for each of them, I want to show you the correct answers of what can go in your home recycling. So I'll show you the first half, we'll talk through them, and then I'll show you the second half. So here are numbers 1 through 8. So take a look and see how you did. And notice which ones you have questions about. I get a lot of questions about number 1. A lot of people don't realize freezer food boxes cannot go in the recycling. This is because they're not just plain cardboard. They have something called wet strength added to them, which is a kind of plastic that keeps them strong when they are in the freezer so the food is protected. So any kind of thing that looks like paper but that was meant to go into the freezer or the fridge, like frozen pizza boxes, ice cream boxes, butter containers, just to be safe, we throw those all in the trash because they're paper mixed with plastic and they mess up the paper recycling. Another one is number 2. It's actually okay to put in that tiny little bit of cellophane in the junk mail because there's so much good paper in junk mail that's very easy to be recycled. Looking at number 3, think about how you get a book to stick together. A lot of time the glues and the bindings in books mess up the paper recycling. And also the paper that books are printed on usually has already been recycled, which means the cellulose fibers are very short, so it's hard to make new paper out of them. Catalogs and magazines, even though they're shiny, it's actually just really high quality paper with ink. It's great to put in the recycling if you don't want it anymore. Notice that spiral notebooks are okay to put in the recycling as long as they don't have any plastic on the cover and it's all paper, and you can actually throw them in with the metal spiral still attached. Paper towels and napkins cannot go in the recycling. Anything that has touched food or might be contaminated and is not clean paper anymore needs to stay out of the recycling. The hot drink cups are very similar to the freezer food boxes. They look like paper, but because they're going to have liquid in them, they add wet strength, plastic, or wax to them, which then can't go into the paper recycling. And here's the second page. Go ahead and check your answers. Now, I'm looking at 9 and 11. Those are really catching my attention. It looks like the large plastic containers, bigger than 6 ounces, were okay to recycle, but the small containers and the lids were not. Now, why would that be? Think back to the video we watched about the MRF. Do you remember how the paper was being separated from everything else? Giant air jets. Anything that's small and light, like those tiny plastic containers, the lids, or even that to-go container on number 13, those will all either fall on the floor and get crushed, or they get blown up into the paper by the giant air jets, and they contaminate the paper recycling. Same thing with number 12, plastic bags. Those absolutely cannot go into home recycling. Notice that for number 10, milk cartons are okay. They just need to be clean and dry. For number 14, plastic bottles with necks are great for recycling as long as they have been cleaned out. The squeeze tubes are really hard to clean properly, so they also contaminate the recycling. Metal lids, very recyclable. Clean foil, very recyclable. I see snack wrappers at schools a lot. This one is definitely trash. One more thing that I wanted to mention that you may have noticed already is not everything on this list has to go in their trash or their recycling. Some things can be reused. Here's an example. That book I said I didn't want anymore, we decided it couldn't go in the recycling, but does it have to go in the trash? No, I could donate it, I could give it to a friend. Same thing with that hot drink cup. If I got this cup, I would have to throw it in the trash, but if I bring my own mug, I don't even have to make this trash in the first place. Same thing, even with things that can go in the recycling, like this large plastic container, in my family we save these and we put leftovers in them. So start to notice if there's anything on that list that you might be able to save and find another use for. I'd also love for you to look at the list and pick one thing that you want to share with the people you live with. So maybe it's something you see people messing up, or something that they don't understand, or something that you learned for the first time today that you want to share with those around you. And if you still have questions, I want you to call this phone number. They're open Monday through Saturday. This is the Metro Recycling Information Number. It's a team of really nice people. They know so much about recycling, reuse, trash, and disposal in the region. They can answer all your questions for anything that you forgot. So give them a call, and we'll see you in the next video.